Hey guys, welcome back, it's Meg, and welcome to the 10.2 Mistweaver guide for Raid. We're going to be going over our stats, core abilities, talents, cooldowns, rotation and playstyles, as well as our UI. For stats, haste is our best due to hot tick rate, faster casts, a lower GCD, a quicker DPS rotation, as well as value during our celestial. Crit contributes to our healing and damage quite a bit, and this is what you're going to start taking after you hit 30% haste. It also contributes to our mana tea portion as well. Versatility also contributes to the same things that crit does outside of mana tea. It's just at a bit of a lower level, but it does bring survivability. And lastly, mastery is not necessarily a bad stat, but it does provide only throughput. So you'll see a lot of Mistweavers avoiding this in Raid, as it is not something that is commonly used, nor does it work with most of the common builds. Gust of Mist is our mastery. The higher mastery that you have, the more you're going to see the impact of this ability. It is applied through Renewing Mist, Enveloping Mist, Vivify, Chi-Ji, and Revival, as well as your main target of Shaylin's Gift. Gust of Mist from the player and Gust of Mist from Chi-Ji both show up as different abilities, but they are both affected by mastery. But again, this isn't really something that we are aiming for in a raid setting. For Essence Font, this is a bit of an AoE heal that isn't used too often without upwelling, but with upwelling it does a decent amount of healing, especially when you couple it with Thunder Focus Tea, which speeds it up. The hot portion of this is applied through Feline Stomp or through Essence Font, and this does a minimal amount of healing, but players with the hot receive double healing from Gust of Mist. Ancient Teachings is mostly a maintenance healing spell, and it does represent well overall. You can activate this through Feline Stomp or through Essence Font, and the uptime should be pretty high on this if you're using it in Raid. Feline Stomp is the ability previously mentioned that triggers Ancient Teachings and also applies the Essence Font Hot. This deals damage and applies the Hot on use, but after the initial hit, only your character needs to be in it to benefit from the effects if you're using either Ancient Concordance or Awakened Feline. This ability allows us to cleave with Blackout Kick and Tiger Palm, as well as heal through Spinning Crank Kick, though this isn't something that we are really going to be using, with the exception of maybe Gnarl Root if you're going for a DPS parse or if it's really late farm. Soothing Mist does minimal healing by itself, but it is more of a tool to make Vivify and Enveloping Mist instant. You only really want to use this during your Yulon ramps or for your mini ramps. This is using Clouded Focus and utilizing the mana reduction and healing increase that you get from that talent. If you're using Chi-Ji, this is not really something that you need to be super worried about. Soothing Mist is still the tool to make Vivify and Enveloping instant, but there's no additional benefit unless one person is taking a lot of healing. This is an integral part of the current playstyle. Renewing Mist is something that should be kept on cooldown and should be used constantly throughout the entire fight. Targets healed by Vivify will also be healed for a portion when Renewing Mist is active, and this is a hot that gets extended with Rising Mist as well. This allows us to set up for upcoming group-wide damage, and it kind of facilitates the whole idea behind the Clouded Focus build with Cleave for Renewing Mist. And then Shaylin's Gift is pretty much only used to trigger our Xiaohao's Lessons buff for our cooldowns. And lastly, we have Expel Harm, and this is just a large self-heal that can be used for personal survivability. For damage, we have Tiger Palm. This is a filler spell that is not very high priority. If you are playing the Yulon build, this is really not used at all. If you're playing the Chi-Ji build, it does take priority underneath Blackout Kick and Rising Sun Kick. With the Chi-Ji build, Blackout Kick is high priority as you are going to be building your Enveloping Mist stacks through Chi-Ji with this ability, and then you are also going to be fishing for Rising Sun Kick resets. And Rising Sun Kick is our highest priority damage ability because through Rising Mist it will be extending all of those lovely hots that we work so hard to get out onto the group, and this is going to be the highest priority button for both Yulon and for Chi-Ji. Spinning Crank Kick is our highest damaging AoE button, but it only does healing if you are talented into Awakened Feline. This is not something that's going to be super common in this raid, but it is just something to keep in mind, like I said, for potentially Gnarl Root in late farm. For our cooldowns, we have our Celestial. This is either Chi-Ji or Yulon, depending on what you pick, and this is our main cooldown that provides high throughput and also facilitates kind of a snowball effect for our mini ramps. This is mostly thanks to Rapid Diffusion as well as Rising Mist and Dancing Mist. Next is Revival. There really isn't a whole lot to talk about here. This is one of the most simple abilities that we have. It is just a heal with some mastery interaction as well as a master spell. This is a good movement cooldown since it is a one-off, and the prep for this is fairly minimal. And then we have our mini ramp, which isn't technically a cooldown, although it does provide good group-wide throughput through our Vivify cleave. This is what I was talking about a moment ago through Celestials with the snowball effect of all of those different talents that feed into our group-wide healing. For our talents, this is our class tree, and this is generally what we are going to be looking at. There are some options here though. If you are not having an issue with survivability, you can opt into more damage. If you're not having an issue with damage, you can opt into more utility like Ring of Peace or your kick, as well as your additional dispel through detox. Or if you find that you don't need any of those things, you can just opt for more mobility or any mix of them. But generally, this is what we are going to be looking at. When it comes to our spec tree, the first one we're going to look at is the Yu'lon and Ancient Teachings build. The appeal of this build is that you have those big burst windows during your 1 minute Yu'lon without giving up the maintenance healing that Ancient Teachings provides. This build is also very good for high movement fights like Nimue, who you cannot really stand and channel to get value out of your Clouded Focus, so Ancient Teachings is the better option here. It's not that Clouded Focus is unplayable, but it's more likely that you're going to get less value from it in situations where you're going to be moving a lot or having to dodge and run around. This build is taking Feline Stomp to act as a trigger for your Ancient Teachings when you do not have your Upwelling ready. We are only using Upwelling with Thunder Focus Tea at our 18 stacks of Essence Font, so you have 2 ways to trigger your Ancient Teachings, so your uptime should be high. And then we also have our Shadow's Lessons and Rising Mist, so I would like to reiterate that even though we are playing Yu'lon, we are also playing Ancient Teachings and Feline and Rising Mist, so we are still in melee and should be using Rising Sun Kick as much as we can. That is crucial to the ramp as well as maintaining those renewing mists for your cleave, for your mini ramps, as well as the main Celestial ramp. So this build is a little bit of a hybrid between the two, and I really enjoy it. Next up we have Yu'lon and Clouded Focus. This is very similar to the other build that we were running. You can see that we still have Yu'lon with our 1 minute cooldown, Upwelling, Shadow's Lessons, Rising Mist, all of that stays the same. The main difference here is that we have dropped Feline Stomp, and we have picked up Healing Elixir, and we have swapped Ancient Teachings out for Clouded Focus. This is very similar to what we ran last year. You have those big Yu'lon ramp windows once again, and you have less maintenance healing than the Ancient Teachings Yu'lon build, but you do save on mana, and then your ramps are beefier due to the interaction with Clouded Focus and Vivify. We are also going to be healing through the Vivify Cleave, through Rising Mists, which is why it's very important to be having that to extend those renewing mists. And again, we are using Upwelling with our Thunder Focus Tea, so this one plays very similar to the previous build that we mentioned, just with the loss of Ancient Teachings for a little bit more emphasis on the actual burst ramp. This is another build that we have the option of playing. It is the Chi-Chi and Ancient Teachings build. This is something that I know a lot of people would definitely prefer to play, and here we have our 1 minute Celestial with Ancient Teachings, the key things being Shadow's Lessons, Rising Mist, Ancient Teachings, and then instead of taking Upwelling, we are running Focused Thunder, and we will use that with Renewing Mist instead of Essence Font. This build is pretty competitive. There are some fights where Clouded Focus or Yu'lon is just going to be better, but overall you should be fine running this for most of the raid. Personally, I do like this build a lot, but I find myself opting for Yu'lon more just because that's what we've been playing and that's what I'm used to. And certain fights like Laredar or Farok where you're healing NPCs, it will be more useful. But for Chi-Chi, for most of the bosses, you are more than welcome to run this, and you should have competitive enough HPS. When it comes to your playstyles for the Yu'lon builds, we have the Yu'lon ramp window. This provides 1 minute burst healing in addition to the snowballing mini ramps that we have through our various talents. And then outside of Celestial, if you are running Ancient Teachings, you're going to want to make sure that you keep the uptime on that as high as you can through either Essence Font or Feline Stomp, depending on your build. Vivify can be used as a spot heal, as kind of an AoE, kind of a single target, and you want to be using that at 5 or more Renewing Mists. Whether or not you are using Soothing Mist with this depends on whether or not you are using Clouded Focus or Ancient Teachings. Most of the time, outside of Celestial, we will be using our Thunder Focus Tea with our Essence Font for the Yu'lon build. This will provide healing as well as trigger your Ancient Teachings if you have that talented. And lastly, Renewing Mist maintenance just across the board. Every build should be doing this. Make sure to use those Renewing Mists on cooldown as well as your Rising Sun kicks to get those extended. This is the setup for your Yu'lon window. You're going to use these abilities before actually pushing Yu'lon. You want to make sure that your Renewing Mist stacks are on cooldown, and then use your Thunder Focus Tea with Secret Infusion to trigger either haste through Renewing Mist or haste through Essence Font if you're using Upwelling. Then you're going to extend those through Rising Sun Kick. Now we actually push the Yu'lon button. We are going to use Enveloping Mist 4 or 5 times depending on the spread of the group, and those are going to be hard casted. After that, you will Rising Sun Kick, and then you can start your Soothing Mist into Vivify spam until Rising Sun Kick comes up, and then you are going to finish with that. You may still have some residual healing to do after that, and that is fine, but at this point, most of the ramp has finished. For the Chi-Ji playstyles, we once again have our 1 minute coverage, although it is not quite as bursty as our Yu'lon are, so it's a little bit more consistent and even keel. Outside of Celestial, if you're using Chi-Ji, you will be using Ancient Teaching, so make sure that you are keeping the uptime high on that through your Essence Font without Upwelling or through your Feline Stomp. Once again, we have our Vivify spot healing. You're going to be using that at 5 or more Renewing Mists, which should be pretty easy to maintain. We will use our Thunder Focus Tea on Renewing Mist because that is our haste proc. It gives us better uptime on Renewing Mist and we're not using Upwelling. And lastly, the Renewing Mist maintenance along with using Rising Sun Kick on cooldown. This is the setup for Chi-Ji. You are going to make sure you have 4 stacks of Teachings of the Monastery, and then we will use our Thunder Focus Tea with Secret Infusion on our Renewing Mist for the haste and the additional duration on that. And then if you're not using Feline, you can go ahead and Essence Font for your Ancient Teachings proc, or you can go ahead and use Feline if you are talented into that. For the actual rotation during Chi-Ji, it's fairly simple from what it used to be, so we're going to use the bird. We will then use our Blackout Kick on the pre-stacked Teachings of the Monastery that we had, and then we are going to use our Enveloping Mist and follow up with Rising Sun Kick. This is just going to be the repetition that you do. If you do not have Rising Sun Kick off of your Blackout Kick reset, you can go ahead and fill that time with Tiger Palm, although Rising Sun Kick will always take priority in a situation where Rising Sun Kick is off of cooldown. If you're using Jade Bond, you will halfway through the rotation have to use your Thunder Focus Tea with your Essence Font or with a Feline to trigger your Ancient Teachings for the second half of the cooldown. If you're using Gift of the Celestials, then your cooldown on Ancient Teachings will finish at the same time as your duration on Bird. And then really briefly, just some recommended UI elements. You want to make sure that you have some kind of boss timers because timing your ramps with Yu'lon and Chi-Ji are very important in Raid, so you don't miss your window or overheal or anything like that. For Voodoo, you don't have to use Voodoo, but just some type of customizable panels, group frames, whatever you want to call them. And I would recommend also tracking your tier set in those. That is very easy to do. I do have a video on how to set it into Voodoo if you just want the hot icon. And then some type of way to track your buffs, be your Mana Tea stacks, your Shaylin's Gift stacks, as well as your Instant Vivifies and duration on any of your major cooldowns like your Celestials, or on things like your Feline Stomp or Ancient Teachings. And then you also want to make sure that you have the Renewing Mist counter. This is going to help you understand when you have enough Renewing Mist to want to prioritize casting your Vivifies. And that brings us to the end of our video. If you guys have any comments or questions, feel free to hit me up on Twitch or Discord, and I will see you in the next video.